Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Toon Talk Sunday session. And joining us tonight is former Newcastle player and current Gateshead player is Owen Bailey. Owen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I think a lot to talk about. It's been good having a big catch up over the last couple of weeks as well, and just looking back at some of your memories at Newcastle, and obviously going on to Gateshead. A lot of good memories for yourself, would you say?
Yeah, definitely. Some of the best years of my life. Obviously, most of them were there. But some of the best times in my life, obviously, at the club. So I had a great time there, really.
Yeah, I mean that's going to the first question. I mean, I know you did sign very young for the club. How did that all come about? Were you playing local football at the time, or?
I was at North Shields Juniors. When I was, I think, like from six-ish onwards. Just playing like mini soccer and stuff. And then Long Benton. And then obviously when I think I was 8, that was when Newcastle sort of said, "Do you want to come in and do like a sort of training day type thing with like a development centre thing?" Because before there was even an academy then. And then just sort of done all right and just stuck around and they said, "Do you want to sign?" Obviously, like under nines is the first kind of year that
Yeah.
there's an actual team, so just signed it under nines and then took it from there really.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, starting off at a young age and making your way through the youth levels. When was it when you really thought, I think I've actually got a chance here? Was it kind of when you're getting on to 18s, 19s, or was it just before that? Or
I think it was probably about 16s onwards, because obviously that's when you get like your scholarship when you start going full time.
right?
So I think from about that age is when you start thinking, you've got a bit of a chance of maybe trying to do something like at the club. I think before that it's all about sort of just wearing the strip and playing with your mate, and it's the same as most other
Yeah,
places. But obviously the facilities are really good, and you're representing Newcastle. But think, like I said there, when you get in full time, that's when it starts to hit you that you've got half a chance of
yeah,
doing
definitely.
something.
No, definitely. I mean, coming through that young age as well, obviously a centre midfielder. Who was around like when you were 16, 17, 18, coming through at that time? Who was the centre midfielders that you were looking up to in the first team at that point?
I think it was like the Kabay, Toyota
Wow.
kind of era. When they had a few good seasons and stuff. So they were obviously looking at the team then, I had a good side like Ben Arthur and all that. So it was like an exciting time sort of be at the club, and they got in the Europa League and stuff, and we were ball boys a few times and that. So
Class.
that was a quite a good thing to be involved in as well.
I mean, some of them names there. I mean, Kabay, Toyota. I think it's the last time we were actually a decent football side. Uh, Especially after watching it yesterday, looking back over there. I mean, when did it all come around when you got your first pro contract as well? Was that kind of later on, or is that 18, 19, or?
Yeah, that was 18. Sort of just after my scholarship. Offered us like 2 years, so it was like a third year scholarship and then a pro after that. So that was like my first kind of professional contract. Taking us into the under 23s. And then I got one more 2 year after that one it ran out. So I was for like as a pro for 4 years at Newcastle.
Brilliant. I mean, like you said there, you sound as though it's not like a big deal, but I mean, it must have been amazing, obviously, getting that news that you were getting the contract. I mean, what was your feelings at the time when you heard that you were getting the pro contract?
Yeah, I was buzzing. I just remember like obviously being with my family and stuff, and obviously they support us a lot and help us through pretty much everything. So I think for everyone sort of close to us and that it was a big deal, and we're just buzzing. But kind of from my point of view, it was just sort of the next step of the progression, and I was just so happy to be still at the club. But I suppose when you look at it, really, you're getting the chance to be a professional footballer. It's what you kind of dream of, really.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? I mean, before we go on to the under 23 level and stuff, and obviously the trophies that you did win, going out to Hong Kong and the Northumberland Cup and stuff like that, was there any kind of tournaments that you played in the academy level, or was there any like type of tournaments that you went to?
We went down to Warwick a few times for like a sort of international cup and stuff. Played against all the top academies. Played against like Real Madrid once,
Oh,
which was
really? Yeah.
unbelievable. And then I went to Turkey, and I went to France twice or three times. And we won a tournament out in Lille. We beat, I think we played Porto, Dynamo Zagreb, Copenhagen, Lens, and then we beat Bruges in the final. So that was quality as well. I think that was under 15s, 16s. just before I went full time. So that was class. Just playing abroad with your mates really, and
Oh, that's
representing the
it.
club. So it was a dream really.
Oh, definitely. Like, see, I mean, 15-year-old traveling the world playing football. I mean, does it get any better than that, really? Does it? It's amazing.
Exactly.
Definitely. I mean, just going on the under 23 level as well, and I mean, around the stage when you were playing, it was quite successful compared to what we are seeing now at the club. I mean, was it the coaches or the players, or was it a bit of mix for yourself?
But I think at the time we had a really good side. We had a lot of lads who sort of went on to have good careers and are sort of starting out to have careers. You know, you look at like Sean Longstaff, obviously still at the club. Matty's still at the club. Kel Watts still at the club. You know, and then you've got like Jamie Sterry, Carl Roberts.
Mm.
You know, we're lucky to have like a real sort of strong side. I've probably missed someone there as well, so I do
Aye, sorry if
apologise
you're
for them.
watching.
But now we had a really top team. So we were lucky. Like I was when we played Sunderland and stuff, in the checker trade. So it was just we had a good team and we're doing pretty well to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to the under 23 as well. Obviously, every now and again, you have some of the first teamers come and drop into there when they come back from injury and looking for getting a bit more game time. Was there any players that did drop down to the under 23s? Was there anyone that actually stood out and just thought, wow, what a player they are?
I remember when Shelby played. Shelby played with us
Right.
a couple of times actually. But like obviously everyone knows his passing range and his technique's just unbelievable. Like some of the sort of passes he sees and that like just next level. So when he's playing, you know, like lads are just running everywhere and he's finding them. So he was like when the lads from the first team did used to drop down, it was just like a massive boost to the team and just like sort of got everyone else going to try and sort of get to them levels.
Oh, definitely. I mean, with the players obviously coming down, dropping down from the first team, and you see now in a game where a player needs that game time, and it means an under 23 player has to drop out for that player to come in. I mean, what's it like when you are playing week in, week out, but all of a sudden one of these first teamers has to come in to play? Is it a bit of a kick in the teeth, or do you understand obviously what it's about, or for the first team?
I remember I got dropped for Lejeune once when he was sort of coming back to
Right.
fitness. But it's just one of them things, isn't it? You know, like ultimately the first team takes priority. So whether you kind of like it or not, like that's just the way it goes. You know, I think you kind of understand there's a lot of games to be played, and obviously you want to be involved in everything. You want to play every minute of every game, don't you? But I think when you
Definitely.
realise that, like obviously he's a first teamer and obviously he is better than you because he's playing for the first team. You understand it and it's nothing you can really do. Just got to get on with it.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned some of them names before, the under 23s. Was there a few players that did stand out where you knew they were going to go and have a good careers? Was there any kind of standout for yourself?
To be fair, most of the lads were just sort of really good. Like it was weird. The standard was sort of really high all around the team. You had like obviously Sean Longstaff was excellent, but he only
Mm,
sort of played the first few months of that season because that was kind of his breakthrough year.
right, yeah,
But sort of he was just so confident, just took the ball in any areas, just drives forward with the ball anywhere. You know his passing range is quality as well, got loads of energy. And then sort of obviously look at Matty's the same. You know, like just top players really. And then them two stood out. But then I suppose in pre-season and that, Ivan Tony trained quite a few times, and I
right,
played a
yeah.
couple of friendlies with him. And you could just tell he had sort of a touch of class. And so I think he was one of them where kind of I always knew that he would go on to do big things really.
I think that's one of those, like you say, like looking at Tony. I mean, I always remember seeing a picture of him like quite a skinny lad, and then all of a sudden he's gone away and he's come back. He's a like absolute beast, and he's a bit of a handful now for the Premier League defenders and that. Sometimes you just got to away and learn the trade, isn't it? In the lower leagues, and like you say, getting the loan deals and stuff like that, and getting yourself ready for the first team, isn't it?
Definitely, I think that's a big part, really. Like you say, there, sort of filling out. Like there's no specific age where you're gonna sort of hit your peak. And like you look at Ivan, like you said there, he wasn't never the sort of like bulkiest, muscliest, but then you look at him now, he is a beast, and he's always been really good at sort of using his body and that. And I think
Yeah.
obviously now that he's got the sort of the frame to go with it, he's an established Premier League player. You know what I mean? He's scoring goals in the Premier League, so just shows you kind of what can be achieved.
No, so like you say, you've got to chuck them in at some point. I know we were watching the warm up yesterday, and the Cambridge keepers. And there was obviously the goalkeeper was warming up, and there was a lad that was training with him. And even my son Parker, he said, "Oh, is that the ball boy?" And honestly, he looked about 13, 14. He like stick thin. And I was thinking, if that keeper goes down injured and he has to come on, he's going to be like absolutely nervous and breaking it. But you've just got to get chucked in at some end, don't you? That's the whole point, isn't it?
Aye, definitely. It's like a sink or swim, really, isn't it? You never know if you're going to be any good unless you get chucked in.
And I know, obviously, when you did the interview for the Toon Talk, the Facebook group, you did mention a couple of the coaches. I mean, to have a good side, there must have been some good coaches at that point. Was any coach that really stood out for yourself and helped you progress as well?
To be fair, the same again. Sort of most of them, if not all of them, were really good. I obviously I was there for a lot of years, so I ended up getting on really well with a lot of coaches. But kind of like Peter Ramage, Chris Hogg, who was sort of there towards the end of my spell. I got on really well with them too. And then before that, like just sort of like Neil Winskill, Liam Bramley, sort of. I probably missed names again. That's another one. But just most of them were really good. And I got on really well with them. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned obviously Peter Ramage, and I would imagine obviously sometimes just every now and again a superstar, well, not a superstar, like you hear from the past coming and doing a bit of training with you. I mean, it just makes a difference. Obviously, them lads have been there, they've played in the first team, they've done it. Does that rub off on you on the group at the time when you are coaching?
Yeah, definitely. I remember when he first came in, Peter Ramage, and sort of like you do look up to him. You know what I mean? You think he's been there and done it. He's been in your shoes, but like he's the most sort of humble man ever, and he just used to have a bit crack with you and just make you feel sort of normal. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he's like, I would class him as a friend now. Like I've played golf with him and stuff, and sort of get on really well with him, and that sort of just says what kind of person he is. So like you said there, like when these players do come in, like you aspire to be like them, but at the same time, they're only human. So you just got to try and like help, like use them to help you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
they're sort of using you to help them as well. So it works both ways.
No, I see. I mean, like you say about obviously players coming in and helping, like you say, Peter Ramage as well, and being humble. I mean, just doing the Toon Talk and stuff like that. I have spoken to a few of the former players, and when I first started this, I never thought I would get the response from the players. I'm just nobody. I'm like anyone else just doing YouTube, but honestly, some of the replies that we've had and some of the players when you message them and they're thinking, "Why have you messaged us for?" Like I've never really done anything, but you've pulled on the stripes for Newcastle. Like, be proud of it. And even some of the first team players that has played a lot of games and thinking, "Yeah, no problem. I've got the time to speak to you," and it's nice to actually for the players to do that, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing, really, isn't it? I think like it takes nothing, does it? You know what I mean? Like it takes sort of maybe it's an hour out of your day, and sort of you probably enjoy it. You know what I mean? You get to meet new people and sort of share kind of your experiences. So I think sort of the more people that do it, the better as well.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I mean, that's just going on to the next thing of obviously the under 23s, and you were quite successful as a group there. And moving on to the next one, which you said in the group was one of your best memories, which was the Hong Kong. I mean, what was it like just traveling out there with the group and playing? What was the memories of that?
It was unbelievable, to be fair. I was lucky enough to go twice. Remember the first time just being sort of like a rabbit in the headlights, just sort of taken back. Obviously it's like all
Yeah,
the lights and all that. You know what I mean? It's a crazy place, but it was like obviously I went twice. We won it twice, and like it's just some of the best memories I've ever had, really, in football. Like you said before, when you're sort of traveling the world with your mates playing football, it's kind of it is really is a dream. And especially when you're sort of being successful doing it as well. Like there's sort of nothing that you'd want like else in the world at the time.
yeah. Oh no, definitely. I mean, just going back, I'm sure I've seen. Did you ever have to put the goalie gloves on at one point? I've
I
seen
did.
pictures of that. Yeah, I thought.
It was like a 7v7 tournament. But then
Right,
if it went extra time, it was 4v4.
right.
The way the teams did it, they sort of just put an outfielder in goal.
Yeah.
So I was like the designated outfielder in goal both years. So, but one of the years, I think it was the first year, I had to go in 4 times. I was only expecting maybe to talk in one, but I had to go in 4 times. So got me used out of them.
Yeah, good evening, Jamie. Obviously, thank you for watching. Anyone what is watching as well? Obviously, any comments, just drop them in there. Any questions as well? We'll get them fired across the one as well. But thank you everyone for watching. It does mean a lot. Just going back to Hong Kong as well, and I mean, was it anything at the airport where I know I've seen it before when they're chucking the flowers over you and putting was it like a big news that Newcastle was coming at the time? Was it anything like that?
I just remember when because obviously we won it the first year, when we went back to like
Yeah,
sort of defend it, there was like a bit of a fanfare about it then, because the first time we went, all the focus was kind of on like Leicester and that, and the sort of
right.
because they were, I think they were at the time like the reigning champions and that, and we were all like, oh, look at them, like, you know, having themselves and having a laugh about it. And then the next year it was us, so it was quite funny how it turned. Like we were all sort of laughing. Like obviously you got loads of sort of media attention and that, so it was funny, but it was a good experience, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, obviously the other side of the world as well, and I mean some good names out there. I mean, was it all training, playing hard? Was there a few parties, or was it quite strict with the coaches?
No, like I think the coaches were quite relaxed, but they just sort of made sure that we were doing the right things on the pitch. You know what I mean? I think when we trained twice the first couple of days, and then it was just games after that, and then obviously after the final and stuff, it was just sort of a night out and that then, because it's like the football's done then, isn't it? And sort of celebrating the win especially. So it was two they were two good nights, them two.
No, no, but I mean, 'cause I'm like originally from Sherburn, so literally the top of my mum's street. That's where Luke Charman live, like his parents live, and
Ah, yeah.
it seems always good. Like I say, I've never really met him, but I've seen him out a few times, obviously around the local area down Durham and stuff, and it seems to have a good night. And I just imagine all he's abroad, and like obviously the coach is getting to sleep, and I've heard all the stories on like other different podcasts of players sneaking out and going. Is anything like that?
I wait. To be fair, there was we went out on the first night when we first got there, and we had train the next day, and like we were probably meant to go out, like, but it was one of them where we just got there, everyone was a bit giddy, so we went straight out. Luke was orchestrating it. To be fair, like he's a great. Luke's a great lad, so just all the lads went straight out. It was quality though.
Oh,
Worked in the end, so that's all that matters.
that's it. It is. What is it? I mean, just going back to the other cups as well. I mean, the Northumberland Cup, and I think it's a great chance. Obviously, I mean, I love the Northern League myself, and just for teams like that to get drawn against the Newcastle under 23s and playing at St James's Park, not just for them, but for the under 23 as well, playing at St James. What's it like running out this tunnel at St James's Park?
It's quality. It's just sort of what you dream of, isn't it? Like obviously you watch it when you're young, and it kind of doesn't matter what sort of team you're playing for, whether it's like a under 16s game, 18s, under 23s, whatever. If there's 5,000 there, 10 there, 52,000, you know what I mean? It's all kind of the same. Like you get the same feeling, you know what I mean? Like the hairs on your neck sort of stand up, and that when you come out of the tunnel, it's just sort of everything you've ever imagined it to be. To be fair.
Oh, but like you say, you've won that one as well, and picture with the trophy. Obviously, what was the final like?
That was good, yeah, yeah. I think the senior cups, it's like you said before, it's one of them competitions where like it does give sort of the Northern League teams a chance to obviously get a Wembley. And like the likes of my brother, he's at Heaton Stanton in the
Right,
Northern League.
yeah.
So like when we always have a laugh on that, hopefully like hoping that he plays against Newcastle one day. So like things like that. But I remember the final against Morpeth. I think we won 4-1. I think it was in the end. But sort of big pitch suited us, and that kept the ball quite a lot. And then just it was quite a comfortable night, but it was like obviously you're winning a trophy at St James's. It was a great night, and kind of one that you'll always remember, really.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, just a few players in the under 23s where you hear a lot about them, and all of a sudden they do kind of go missing or go out on loan. And just a few names, obviously. The first one, Sorensen. What was he like in training? Was he good? Was he getting amongst the goals, or was it kind of just something that wasn't hitting the ground for him?
Yeah, to be fair, Ellis was always. I thought he was always excellent.
Mm,
He's kind of his goal record kind of showed that. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
think there was one year he went on like a mad streak and he scored loads of goals. And I think sort of he went on loan a couple of times, and for one reason or another, it just didn't quite work out for him. And then I think like from there it's kind of an uphill battle. But then to be fair to Ellis, I think he's gone back to Denmark now, and
yeah,
he's scoring goals over there, and he's back in his sort of his home country, and he's flying. So kind of I'm just kind of buzzing for him that he's sort of like not he hasn't sort of not succeeded over here, but you know what I mean. He's
mm,
sort of had a bit of a knock back over here, and he's went back over there, and he's back doing the business. So I think it's hats off to him, really.
Yeah, no, like another strike as well. I mean, like you say, Luke Charman as well. Look, both lads banging goals in the under-23s. I remember at the time we were struggling for goals, and is it one of those where in the first team are the managers scared to bring the youth in, or do you think it's because now you get 2 or 3 games and it's kind of you want the managers out? Is there too much pressure to play the young lads? Because same with Luke, he was banging the goals in, and myself was crying out for him to come and have a chance, and same again, just didn't really get the chance and let go. Is it the pressure from the first team? Do you think the manager?
Well, like you said there, you look at Luke now. Luke's scoring all the time
Yeah,
in our league, and I think there's loads of clubs sort of sniffing around him now. And it's no surprise to me because obviously I know that he's a top player. But I think, like you said there, like I think managers are sort of they've only got a certain amount of games. You know what I mean? And
mhm.
like you said, if they throw a young lad in and he doesn't quite do it in the first couple of games, questions are going to be asked. And I think that's sort of the sad reality how it is at the minute. I think unless you give sort of people time and a chance to sort of settle in and a real sort of sustained opportunity, I don't think you'll ever sort of see the best in people, really. I think that's the same in all sort of players within the first team now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just going back, I mean, the game yesterday as well, and like I said, yes, we can pass the ball on the back and get it midfield, and we're playing out wide, and we just didn't seem to have a striker up there. And you've got lads like Stevenson at the moment who scoring goals in the under-23s, and we're not even on the bench yesterday. And then going at the second half, obviously the goal goes in for Cambridge, and straight away the panic, and they're bringing on Joe Willock, where I think obviously last season everyone loved him. Was he playing for the contract at Arsenal? Obviously, he gone back to Arsenal. I think the deal as the January, obviously the window went on. It seemed to be last minute. He was hoping and praying for the Arsenal contract, and he's came and he just seemed to be walking around yesterday. We brought Miggy on the same time, just as normal, running around like a headless chicken. And you've got the 2 young lads there, Joe White, Elliot Anderson, and I've watched a lot of the under-23 games this season, especially with Anderson and White, and it doesn't matter if they've got 2, 3 men around them, they're comfortable on the ball, they can find that final pass. Like, what must be going through their heads at the time when they know they can come on and give a change, but they just bring the same people on that way you're getting the same performance from?
I think it's obviously frustrating, isn't it? I think, especially the 2 that you mentioned there, Joe and Elliot, they're both like excellent players, and they've always been real sort of standouts. And I think they're both really confident as well, and they'll sort of
Mm-hmm.
back themselves, like kind of if they are given a chance to come on and affect the game. So I think that'll be sort of really frustrating for them because they'll be desperate for an opportunity to sort of show what they can do, really. And I think a young lad who's coming on is going to give everything they can on it to sort of
That's
show
it.
what they can do and really sort of die for the club, really. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just do everything they can. So I think that they're kind of missing the trick when it comes to especially cup games. It's like an ideal opportunity to introduce players, but I think it's kind of always been that way. And like we said before
Yeah.
about kind of pressure on managers and stuff. It is difficult, and you can see why they don't kind of get them on the pitch. But I personally would like to see kind of, especially Elliot and Joe, sort of given more of a chance.
Yeah, I mean, like I've watched Hartlepool a lot of times and got a few of those games where one of the main things that really does my head in is you'll see teams, especially like see a goalkeeper gets injured and they're bringing an emergency loan goalkeeper. Like, what's the youth goalkeeper there for? If he's not going to get it, he's time now to come and step up. And if he's good enough to get that chance, like, what's that going to make him? Or we'll just go out and get a loan signing. Panic, it's no good, is it?
I know. It's like it's one of them, isn't it? It's like, what is the point? What's kind of the point in having the lads there if you're not going to kind of use them anyways? So I think that's kind of what needs looked at, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, personally, that you've got the 7 subs now. I would love to see a rule where at least 2 of them subs has to be from the under-23s or a local grown talent. Even if they don't get the game time, I mean, just being on the bench at St James Park, getting and going away travelling. I mean, that must mean something to the players at least, mustn't it?
Oh, definitely. Like well, you've seen kind of what it means to me. Like just sort of even at a youth level. So to be involved in a first team game, it's like something you'd remember for the rest of your life, and it would be like a massive achievement. But I think it's also kind of a good experience you can take forward as well, isn't it? So I think that definitely, like you said there, something like that rule would definitely encourage it.
Yeah, and especially now, obviously the money coming in, and you're going to be seeing all these better players coming into the club, and in a way, it's going to start killing the academy, isn't it? And I hope that doesn't happen because there's always two or three players that always seem to be coming through, and it seems to be promising, and then all of a sudden now the money's available, they can just go out and buy a player for 60 million, and that's it. They're just going to be forgetting about it. And I hope, obviously, say Man City now after a couple of years. And they've got a few of these youth players coming through and some really good players, and it's good of them to do that. I hope we do kind of do something like that, isn't it?
I think it kind of is starting to go full circle now, isn't it? It's like it's kind of been a case where everyone sort of just bought everyone in for money and stuff, and then like you say there with Man City, like you watch them in the FA Cup, they've got kind of loads of young lads playing. Obviously, they did have quite a few first teamers playing as well, but like look at Palmer and all that playing.
Yeah, doing really
So
well.
I think kind of if they're setting the example, then the rest of the clubs will end up following. Like hopefully, and I think if there's rules that sort of come in where you need X amount of homegrown players or whatever as well, that can only help.
Yeah, no. I mean, go back to yourself as well. Obviously, doing well at the under-23 level. And what was there? Was there any kind of promising about the first team and the managers coming looking at that time, or was there any kind of idea that you might be getting to push the first team?
I sort of trained quite a few times. When when we had that successful year.
Hmm.
But a lot of the time it's sort of you're just going up to kind of make the numbers up. You know what I mean? Like if it's a kind of day before a game that you're going to be the opposition, or you're going
Yeah,
to do like a defending set play. You're going to help out with set plays and stuff to be a body really. And it's one of them where obviously you've still got to try and sort of take your chance, and even if it is a kind of a set play thing, you've got to try and win headers and show that you're willing and stuff. Because you kind of in your head they're always watching and stuff, but I think you kind of know in the back of your head like it's a bit of a like you're only there kind of to make the numbers up. You know what I mean?
yeah, no. I mean, just going back, obviously, when you went out with the first team to Asia. I mean, what was the nerves like when you got that call to say that you're going to travel with the first team? Was it quite nerve-wracking at the time?
To be fair, like when I actually got the phone call, I wasn't that nervous. I was more
Yeah.
excited than anything else. I think it was more when I was on my way to the airport. That was when I was thinking like, oh, going to be next to all the sort of first teamers and that. Yeah, on a plane, like never travelled with them before, so that was when it started kicking in.
I mean, well, that's obviously like you say when you get into the airport and get on the aeroplane. I know there was a few, obviously, under 23 players at the time, but what was the first team like? Were they quite welcoming? Was there any players that kind of stood up and helped the young lads at the time?
Yeah, to be honest with you, they're all spot on, really. I couldn't complain about any of them. I think, obviously, I was lucky, like you said, that there was quite a few of us young lads, and it was also the season after Sean had sort of broke through as well. So Sean was there as
Mm.
well, and he was kind of a bit of a link between the first team and the young lads. But I remember sort of being like on the first plane when we went to, I think it was to Hong Kong before we changed over to China. I had no shorts because obviously the first team get a lot more travelling kit than us, and
Right.
we had no shorts, and Shelby offered us his shorts. So like you go from sort of petrified to speak to someone to like borrowing his shorts. You know what I mean? So things like that just help a lot.
It's amazing. It just settles the nerves down, though, doesn't it? Like I can't imagine, obviously, traveling to the airport. You know that you're going to be sitting on this airplane with players that's on an X amount of money, and a lot of people have like a different perspective about them. Obviously, they're well paid. They kind of don't have any time for other people, but once you get to know them, as you say, they are quite just down to earth players, aren't they?
Yeah, well, like you said there, like they're just normal people. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like they've been in your situation. So I think sometimes there's maybe like a bit of a language barrier, or something. But
Yeah,
like you know what I mean? That's not like that's probably why you don't have as much sort of crack with them, sort of like with a few of the foreign lads. But when you like the likes of Shelby and stuff, kind of really sort of put their arm around the young lads and helped a lot. So I think like you can't complain really, and they help.
I mean, just training out there with the first team as well. I mean, who was the main players that were really standing out? Who was putting kind of the effort in, the skill, and just looked amazing in training?
I think again Shelby, like I keep coming
Mm.
back to him, but like in terms of his technical ability and stuff, like it's unbelievable. Like the passes he sees and his sort of range is frightening. You know what I mean? Like you just pick the ball up 25 yards out and pick out the top corner. You know what I mean? Like as if it's nothing.
Amazing, yeah.
So you just took back by things like that. But I remember we done like a sort of a tough running, like a running thing. And like you can just tell from that kind of what it takes to sort of be involved. Like fitness levels and stuff.
Yeah, no. And what was the feeling like, obviously, playing over there as well? I mean, making with the first team, that must have been an amazing feeling as well.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was just happy to be there, to be honest. And then we had a meeting before the first game against Wolves, and then they said, "Oh, well, everyone's gonna get a run out," and I was thinking, "Oh Christ, that means me," you know what I mean? So then seeing that I was gonna be coming on, and like it hits you then, and obviously like the bus to the game and stuff, like you start nervous knowing you're coming on, and I think sort of the full game just a bit of a blur really now. Like you just you're not really there. You know what I mean? Like it's all obviously you're playing and you're focused and stuff, but like it's just sort of surreal, really. Like you're obviously representing the first team, and it was on Sky and stuff, and like it's just a mad thing. And obviously having it in China as well, like the climate and all that, it's just an unbelievable experience, really.
No, who were you playing alongside at the time on that half?
I think it was. I think I was playing next to Isaac Hayden. I think
Right.
he was in midfield with us then. But then if you look at the Wolves team, they hadn't made any changes yet, so they still had like I think it was I was up against Neves, Matinho, and
Oh, amazing.
think it was Neto or something. I can't remember.
Yeah,
But it was
it's amazing,
three
like.
big, and they're just sort of flicking it around corners. I was just chasing
Yeah.
shadows.
Oh, it's amazing memories. So, I mean, like you say, after that, obviously, you must have thought, I've got a chance here now to impress and hopefully push on to the first team. And is that when the injuries started happening? I know you're out for so many months. It must have been so frustrating for yourself at the time, was it?
Well, I think that was obviously when I started to think, there's a bit of a chance here that I might be able to sort of get in a squad maybe, or try and train more or become sort of a permanent feature up with the first team. But like you said there, kind of that was when I done my knee and sort of things really took a turn for the worse and kind of derailed us. I suppose what was probably the worst time really.
No, definitely. I mean, like you say, you're out for so long, and it's not like you've got another job on the side where someone gets injured playing Sunday League. Like, I mean, I ruptured my Achilles last year, but I was still working from home, lying on the bed, crippled. But as a footballer, you get injured, that's your job. I mean, it's mentally as well as physically, isn't it? I mean, what's that feeling at the time where you know you can't perform, you can't do what you love?
It's horrible, really. Like there's not really much words that you can describe it because you just sort of sat in the gym, like kind of on a bike, looking out the window and obviously
Yeah,
seeing the rest of the lads training and having a laugh and working hard. Like even when they're doing runs and that, like the hard fitness stuff, you just want to be involved. Do you know what I mean? You're looking at them knackered and you're thinking, I'd happily take getting beasted here. I just want to be sort of part of it again and doing like what you love. So it's just so frustrating more than anything else, and it's one of them things you can't control, is it? So it's like that's what makes it worse, really.
yeah. Especially when you see like you hear lads might get a push, and you think, oh, that could have been me in that position, or you could have been you getting the push. And like you say, it's frustrating watching out the window and you're seeing these lads training, and you're thinking, if you might see obviously the manager at the time coming down to watch the under 23s, and you think that could have been me on that pitch at that time, isn't it?
Definitely, it's like you feel like you're kind of missing time to impress, and you're missing opportunities to sort of showcase what you can do. So it's just hard to take, really.
No, I mean, like you say, going to the next firm, it's hard. Obviously, after so many years at the club, obviously getting released at the time. What was the? Did you get news about it, or was it kind of just called in at the time to say that you were leaving the club?
I got like an email saying you've got a meeting. I think it was like a couple of days later. I remember just sort of being a bit like taken back by it, thinking, "Oh, like
Yeah,
this is it." You know what I mean? Like I'm finding out, but I hadn't kicked the ball for I think it was about 18 months at the time, so I didn't really have any idea what was going to happen.
yeah,
So I think it was kind of like just a strange situation to be in, really. And then obviously went in the meeting and they kind of said that I wasn't going to be kept on, and it was just like you just feel like everything you've kind of worked towards is gone. Like obviously it's not because you've got your sort of fitness levels and you've improved as a player and all that, and you've got your experiences and stuff. But I think in terms of like everything you've kind of gave for the club, you just feel like it's all kind of came to nothing really, and it's hard to take really. You just want to sort of be there for the rest of your career and sort of with the people you grew up with. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, that's it. I mean, like when we seen the list at the time, and I was talking to someone on the way to the football this morning, and I always remember when the list came out, and it was quite a long list. Where normally over the years before it was quite short, and we were just going through the list at the time. And I remember seeing your name, and I thinking, so I've seen you play for you in 23. I've come from on the ball. And I thought that's not right. And obviously with the injuries as well, I was thinking he's got to have a chance to prove himself. He's been out injured for like a year and a half. Surely that's. And I'm thinking, it can't be right, can't be right. And then obviously you see all those other players at the time. I know it was kind of just a bit of a rethink and which way they were going. But a few fans, even in the Toon talk when we put the list on, got a shock to see your name on there. Must have been quite a bit of a shock to yourself at the time, like you say, being out injured for such a while and not given that final chance to kind of prove yourself.
I think that's probably the frustrating bit, kind of not being given like one last chance to sort of show kind of what I can do. Like obviously I was 22 when I got released, and so like in terms of ages football wise, you're not getting on, but you know what I mean. In terms of playing for the 23s, you want to be sort of looking at senior football then. But I think it's just sort of the way the timing's happened. You know what I mean? I think obviously missing them 2 years happened to be between sort of 20 and 22, like two of the biggest years really, in terms of like getting loan experience or training with the first team or whatever. So I think that's sort of the frustrating part. Not being sort of able to like give it a last chance and kind of show what you can do really.
Yeah, so like you say, I remember that around that time, like Luke Charman, a couple of lads going to Accrington, Daniel Barlaser going to Rob, like just little loan deals like that to good teams where you know you're in for a battle and they've got a chance now to go out and show that. And even if they are going to get released, clubs in that league have kind of seen them play. So even if they get released, then they think, oh, I remember that lad, he played against us, he had a good game, where you never kind of had that chance. And that must have been hard as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like obviously when I was out of contract and looking for a new club, like the majority of clubs kind of say like you haven't played any senior games. You know what I mean? And that was kind of the feedback I was getting off pretty much everyone. You haven't played any senior games, so that's kind of the frustrating part. You know what I mean? How can you kind of do it if you're not being given the chance? But it's also kind of circumstances as well. You know what I mean? So it's just a frustrating thing all around, really.
No, I mean, just before I got to the Gateshead, I mean, if you could pick one memory from Newcastle, what was your best memory from that time at Newcastle?
Best memory it'd probably have to be Hong Kong, really.
Yeah.
I think like just like you know, being abroad with your pals, sort of being successful as well. Like just them 2 trips were unbelievable, really. And just like we still talk about it now, you know. And if I see a few of the lads, we'll talk about obviously the laughs we had and that. So I think that they were definitely the best 2 times.
Yeah, I mean, just like you mentioned there, it's the laughs and the memories. I was at the Burnley game, and luckily enough, I got invited into one of the former players. And at half time, I just remember I was sat with a pint and just turned around, and all these former players were just, remember this, remember that, remember when you did this, remember this. And it was just like laughs and smiles at the club. It was nice to see, and it must be so good, like all the memories of playing. But in the changing rooms, the banter off the pitch, and obviously traveling to away games, it must be so many memories of like daft things that's happened where just that one story comes up and it just makes someone's day, isn't it?
Aye, loads. Like obviously you've played with that many people as well, and there's so many sort of characters and funny lads and like funny things that have happened. Like you forget who was even there. You know what I mean? And like you'll see someone, especially even if you're like playing against them. Like you might be like the other week when we were playing against Luke. You know what I mean? And sort of you have a laugh about things that have happened and times that you had and that. So it'll kind of always be the same. You know, you bump into people and stuff and just have a laugh about the good times, I suppose.
No, I mean, going on the Gateshead as well. I mean, we had a lot of feedback on the Twitter as well, and fans that were looking forward to watching you on the channel tonight. And I always remember, because obviously with Newcastle playing a lot of away games in pre-season, myself and my son, we went to quite a few of the pre-season games at Gateshead, and absolutely loved it. And I'm sure it's my memories, but going backwards, I think it was the Hartlepool game. Was that when you were a trialist?
Aye,
if I remember, yeah.
First.
I'm just trying to remember back the day, because I remember you were coming on onto the pitch, and obviously COVID, there was a few like gaps in between the seats, and I remember when they put this, obviously they couldn't mention your name, it was just trialist, and straight away there were a few like fans around us like, who's this coming on? Who's this coming on? He looks familiar. Who's this? And like, I'm not quite normally a shy lad, and I just remember I was like, it's Owen Bailey. You play for Newcastle under 23s. He's good on the ball. He's comfortable. And everyone was like, what? Who is this?
I've got
And
you
then,
to thank then.
and they're like, all right, and I don't know if it was Luke, is it Luke Williams as well? It was at the minute there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was the same game or the game after. And who was this? It's like, oh, he's just coming from Hartlepool, bit of an injury setbacks, but he's a good lad. He's a good fast player. And like, you can come every week, you. Just like passing on all the details. But like you say, watching against Hartlepool, and I mean, that was a trial game. I mean, was it a lot of pressure on you trying to impress, or was it kind of almost a deal was done at the time? Were you training with them?
To be fair, I'd only trained twice, and I think it kind of helped that, like, I didn't really see it as kind of a trial. Like, I was just sort of training and just sort of, staying ticking over. So I think that helped because
Yeah,
I didn't kind of heap pressure on myself. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously we played the game. I came on and stuff, and like I remember just like we played some unbelievable stuff. Really, obviously we won
you
4-1.
did like.
But I remember like Hartlepool had a pretty much a full strength team out, and I think we battered them really. And I remember coming away and just thinking like, wow, you know what I mean? Like definitely something I want to be a part of. And then it moved kind of like pretty quickly from there, really.
I remember watching it, like you say, you just literally passed them off the field. Every time they got the ball, it was just a man in the face closing down. And there was quite a lot of Newcastle fans there watching. And obviously at the time, we knew Ashley was going to be there and Steve Bruce. And well, can you see we were playing football and some of the Newcastle fans were just thinking, wow, like we've got to start coming to a few more of these games. And I mean, we go everywhere to watch football and it was lovely, like just to see football being played in the right way. And it was really good. And then I always remember the second game afterwards, obviously, your name was announced and you were signed. And what was it like playing straight away against the under 23s? But that was quite quite strange.
Well, I remember like I knew that game was happening.
Yeah,
And so obviously after the Hartlepool game, like the only thing I kind of wanted to do was play against Newcastle again. You know what I mean? Because obviously I'd been there for a lot of years and obviously had a lot of mates there. But at the same time, like I've been released. Like I kind of had a bit of a point to prove. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to
definitely.
kind of show like what I could do really. And I remember the lads were excellent again. I think we won 4-1 again. And I think we battered them as well. And I think like we showed that day that we're sort of a real side. You know what I mean? And I think that was a really good day and sort of the perfect way to start it off, really.
Yeah, like I say, I was doing a few little write-ups for the game, obviously with the under 23s playing, and I think it was kind of 20 minutes into the game, there was nothing actually on the paper about the under 23s. It was about how good Gateshead was playing and the passing football. And obviously, once I got back and put the stuff in the Toon talk, it was actually mentioning more about yourself and kind of what they've let go rather than the players that we've got. I just remember you just absolutely battered them. They couldn't get next to you. It was, and then
Yeah,
they just seemed to be bringing players and more players on. They just couldn't get anywhere next to you. It's like,
hi. It was a good feeling to be fair. Just sort of getting one over really. I think it was something that I really enjoyed to be fair.
yeah. I mean, one thing that got me, I think it was last week or the week before, you put a picture on. I think that's after you scoring your first header after celebrating. And a lot of you, like as you said, it was just nice playing with your friends and having a smile on your face. I mean, that must mean a lot to yourself, does it?
Oh, it means everything really. Like I think the majority of the lads at Gateshead now, like obviously I'm pretty really close with. You know what I mean? I would describe most of them as me close friends. But Jack Hunter and Dan Ward, who were on the photo, like I played with Newcastle with them for a lot of years. And like they're sort of my friends away from football as well, and we'll go on holiday together and stuff. And like they sort of be sharing moments out with them, you know what I mean? Like it just makes it all the more special. Like just sort of it really is sort of just having a laugh with your mates and like being successful like we were that day. So it's kind of a dream really.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, a lot of the players that were released that season, it's nice to see that they have found clubs and they're doing well. Like you say, in that league, the Gateshead, the Spennymoor, the Darlows, there's some good sides around the Northeast now and very competitive. And a couple of players, I mean, not to mention any names that I've spoke to where they've been at the club for a long time and then they've been released and all they're known as football. And a lot of them kind of struggled mentally after that. And they said like they couldn't think about playing football again because all they thought they were going to do is play for Newcastle United. And a few players I didn't mention when they've done the Facebook groups and interviews with them, they have really struggled with that.
Yeah, well, yeah. To be fair, you can see how it happens because you're also sort of
Definitely.
focused on football. Like everything you do at the club and everything you do away from the club is about getting better, really. like when you're not there, you're sort of trying to eat the right things, trying to go to the gym, trying to like better yourself, and I think you just sort of forget about that you're just a normal person at the same time. You know what I mean? You forget that you've sort of got to have a life, and you've got to try and have things away from that because it's not always going to be there. So I think it's important not to get sort of too like blinkered into just being solely Newcastle or whoever. You know, I think it's all about sort of opening your eyes and seeing everything really.
Yeah, I mean, speaking to like you mentioned there before, Paul, and I know he's done a lot of work for the club for the former players, and like you say, a lot of things around the ground where it's always players that's made a first team appearance and done this and done that. Where I know he's worked so much over the last couple of years now, and walk. I think he said going into the boardroom, it's literally a list of every player that's played for the first team. It doesn't matter if you've made 100 appearances, 200, one, the under 23s, the academy. The name's going to be kind of up there. So any decision that's getting made by Newcastle United, they remember the players that's played for the club. I think that's like to yourself, that must mean a lot.
Yeah, I think little things like that, like they sort of really, that's when it really hits home because at the time you don't really appreciate it. You're just sort of focused on kind of what you can do and always sort of focused on that. But I think when you sort of step away and you come back and you think about it, like when you hear things like that, you know what I mean? You realize that it was sort of a big thing, and you kind of you're a part of it forever, really.
Definitely. I mean, go back to Gateshead finally as well. Obviously, you've got Mike Williamson there, and I know we say Watson a lot on Facebook. And he seems good banter between the lads. I mean, what's it like working for them too? Is there any good stories?
To be fair, it's really good. It's
Yeah.
all sort of like a lot of focus, a lot of like tactically we're all sort of really well drilled, and it's all about sort of being on the front foot and high energy. It's sort of just playing, not overcomplicating things, you know what I mean, and just sort of working hard and just being sort of focused, I suppose, and digging deep. And I think that suits the group that we've got because sort of everyone buys into that. And I think it's like it's something I've really enjoyed, and I'm delighted that I've been given the chance to go there. Really, it's suited us down the ground.
Yeah, it seems really good setup. I mean, obviously, it was nice to see Williamson getting a chance in management, and I know when he played for Newcastle, for me, he was very underrated, especially playing in defence at the time. And I know it was a bit shaky, but he used to put a lot of good performance in. And obviously, I've seen him play a few times for Gateshead, and he always just seems to put that performance in. And his little comb over never seems to be out of place by the end of the game. He always seems to put the shift in and working hard, doesn't he?
Yeah, like obviously he's playing in the Premier League. You know what I mean? So he's a top player, and he's got like unbelievable experience. And obviously all the lads sort of lean on him a lot for help and advice and just little bits. But he's excellent, really, both on the field and off the field. Obviously you see his performances on the pitch, but also sort of like when he's managing on the sideline, it's the same. You know what I mean? It's all sort of geared towards helping everyone, and I'm just sort of privileged really to be given the chance to play under him.
Yeah, and finally, I mean, what's your aims for the season with Gator? I know you've had a great start, and is a promotion this season?
I think it's got to be promotion really. I think at the start of the year, we're focused on that. We had a decent start. We probably wish we had a better one, and then we had a real sort of good patch. I think we won 7 in a row. But then the last couple of games we've struggled and we've lost two. But I think this is kind of the big point in the season now where we've kind of got to stand up and be counted really, and sort of show what we're about. I think we've got quite a mentally strong group, and I think everyone's sort of keen to bounce back and not sort of dwell on the bad performances because there's going to be sort of highs and lows across the season, isn't there? So I think as long as we can sort of get back to winning ways soon, I think there's no reason why we can't get promoted really.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, some of the teams that's in that league at the moment, just the northeast. I mean, you got yourselves, Blythe Spartans, Spennymoor was just brought in the two, obviously joint managers who's got a lot of experience at that level. Then you got Dalton. I mean, it's a great like showcase where players are getting released from the clubs now, and that's a great league to jump into. And like you say, teams that are watching around that, they're going to be watching the good sides because all them sides good like get the ball down and pass around, don't they?
I think I think the league's getting stronger every year as well. I think there's
Definitely.
more more and more lads sort of filtering down and sort of coming to the Conference North and sort of playing the trade there. And I think it's only gonna get better. I think sort of the standard now is already really high, and I think sort of going forward, it's only going to get better. So hopefully, if we can sort of keep progressing though as well, and hopefully we can, if we can get promoted and go to that next step, we'll sort of challenge ourselves at the next level. But I suppose it's just sort of taking things one step at a time at the minute, and game by game, and just seeing where that takes us really.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, if you do get promoted, you're pretty much one division below the football league, and it's just you ever know, it's one of those teams every season where they have a good season. I mean, look at Sutton United now playing in League Two. They never ever thought they would do things like that. I mean, what would it like to be get back and playing in the professional game?
Oh, it'd be unbelievable, wouldn't it? I think obviously, especially to do it with Gateshead, obviously
Yeah,
they sort of give us a opportunity when not many other people would. You know what I mean? And I think sort of if we could sort of go on a bit of a run and achieve something like that, it would be unbelievable. And it would mean a lot, not just to me, but to everyone involved. So hopefully one day we can do that.
no, definitely. But no, finally, just obviously thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure and brilliant having just a little bit chat with you. And I think the fans have enjoyed. I know just during the week, obviously you mentioned that you're coming on and straight away. I remember when he did this in the 23s, and it just gets stories going, doesn't it? Obviously, know that you're coming on and some good little stories that we talk about, isn't it?
No, definitely, I enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
No, just anyone watching as well. Obviously, today we just hit 1,000 in our Facebook group as well. Obviously, just closing in 150 subscribers. It honestly means so much to myself for the support that you've shown, especially over the last couple of months. I mean, the YouTube channel's only been going now for I think it's 2 months, and it's just getting bigger and bigger, as well as a Facebook group. So thank you everyone for watching. We've got another former player on next week. We'll get some links out going in the next few moments as well once the show ends. But thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you next week. Well, thank you for coming on. Do appreciate it, on.
Cheers.